So fragmentation is nothing but the hyphae will break into smaller bits of fragments, and each fragment will develop into a new organism. And their mode of nutrition is they are saprophytes, they are decomposers, they are parasitic, and they are coprophilous. So some of the hyphae in fungi, they do not have septars or cross wall. So what happens here is inside the hyphae, the cytoplasm is there. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session on Class 11 Biology for CBSE. I'm Dr. Divya, Biology Faculty, Vidhyaashram School of Excellence, Mysuru. So in this session, let us study about a small topic, that is Kingdom Fungi, under Chapter 2, Biological Classification. So we shall look into what Kingdom Fungi is, and then we shall move into studying about what are some of the MCQs that can be framed under this particular topic, which can be asked for the exam. So starting with the Kingdom Fungi. So in earlier sessions, we had learnt about Kingdom Monera and Kingdom Protista, right? Under Whittaker's system of classification. So this is the third kingdom, that is Kingdom Fungi. So in Kingdom Fungi, all the organisms are heterotrophic, meaning they depend on other organisms for their food, wherein majority of them are saprophytes. That is, they grow on dead and decaying organic matter, wherein they make use of the dead and decaying organic matter for their food. And some of them can also be parasitic on plants as well as animals also. So, being heterotrophic, they can be saprophytes or they can be parasites. Next, talking about their habitat. So, habitat means the region where they live. So, these fungi, they are cosmopolitan in nature, meaning they are found throughout the world in any kind of habitat, be it the air, water, soil. Some of them, they grow on animals and some on plants. So, that is why we call it cosmopolitan, meaning they are found everywhere. And they also tend to grow wherever the temperature is warm and a little bit humid or moisture availability is there. So, this is about the habitat. Next, talking about their morphology. That is, when you look at a fungi, what are the structures that you get to see in a fungi? So, they are unicellular, that is, they can be made up of one cell or they can also be multicellular. So, always remember this. This is very, very important because yeast is the only unicellular fungi that is there, and this question keeps coming for the exam. Name the unicellular fungi. It is nothing but yeast, which is also called as Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So, yeast is the unicellular fungi. And they can be filamentous, wherein they grow like filaments, that is like tube-like. So, they can be filamentous, or meaning they have filamentous hyphae. So, this is nothing but the filamentous hyphae, wherein they are long, they are very thin, and they are almost like threads. So, if you can see here, can you see this? They are filamentous in nature. So, they are long and thin and thread-like, or they can be just unicellular like that of the yeast. And the hyphae can be cenocytic. So, what is cenocytic hyphae? So, you should know that the hyphae of the fungi can contain septa. So, septa are nothing but they are cross walls in the fungi like this. They are cross walls. So, this is nothing but septa. All these are septas. So, this one, this, all these are septas. So, if they have a septa, inside each septa, it will have one nucleus. Their cytoplasm will contain one nucleus, right? So, this is a different type of hyphae. Now, what is cenocytic hyphae? So, some of the hyphae in fungi, they do not have septas or cross wall. So, what happens here is inside the hyphae, the cytoplasm is there, and in the cytoplasm, the nucleus is continuously present like this, right? So, inside the hyphae, there are multiple nucleus, right? So, this is nothing but cenocytic hyphae. It is cenocytic. So, cenocytic hyphae means they are continuous tube-like hyphae which are filled with cytoplasm, and in that cytoplasm, the nucleus are distributed without any proper order. Therefore, they are multinucleate. So, multinucleate tube-like hyphae are called as cenocytic hyphae. So, and I also told you hyphae, they may contain septae or cross walls. Some may contain septae or cross walls, or some may not contain septae or cross walls, wherein they are nothing but cenocytic hyphae. And the cell wall of this particular fungi, it is made up of a compound called as chitin, and it is made up of sugars, that is polysaccharides. So, this is about the morphology. So, you can see here how beautiful the fungi looks. You can see here how the nuclei are there inside the hyphae, and how the hyphae is filamentous, and the hyphae is made up of chitin, and it is made up of polysaccharide. Next, moving on to uses of fungi. So, fungi, especially yeast. So, I told you yeast is a unicellular fungi wherein it contains only one single cell. So, yeast is used in the brewery industries and bakery industries, where it is used in making bread and also in beer. Why? Because yeast helps in the process of fermentation. So, that is why. And one of the important fungi, that is penicillium. So, this is penicillium, if you can see. So, this is how penicillium looks. So, this penicillium actually is used in making penicillin antibiotics. You all have heard of, right? So, penicillin antibiotics is got from this particular fungi, penicillium. So, therefore, it is used in making antibiotics. Next, there are some fungi which are edible, like we have mushrooms, the common ones that you find, and toadstools, which are usually used as food. So, you can see mushrooms and toadstools here. They are used as food, therefore, they can be used in making various delicacies or eateries. So, these are about the uses. So, next let's move on to what is the mode of nutrition. So, earlier itself I have told you they are heterotrophic, wherein they can be saprophytic or they can be parasitic, and sometimes fungi, they can be symbiotic, meaning they can grow in association with lichens, that is lichens and mycorrhiza. So, they can grow along with lichens and they can grow along with mycorrhiza. So, what is lichens? We shall look into it in one of the sessions, because you have a separate portion wherein they have studied, they have put viruses, viroids, prions and lichens separately. So, we will study about that. So, lichens are nothing but this is a lichen. So, usually you might have seen in trees white or greenish white patches and all, grey color patches and all that will be growing. So, they are nothing but lichens. So, wherever lichens is there you can find fungi as well, and wherever mycorrhizas, which are the useful organisms, there also you can find lichen growing. So, and parasites means they grow on other plants and animals, wherein they cause diseases in plants and animals. So, they can be parasitic, they can be saprophytic also, and they can live in association with other organisms also, like symbionts between lichens and mycorrhiza. Next, talking about the reproduction. So, reproduction is in fungi can be by vegetative method, by asexual method and by sexual method. Some of the fungi, they undergo vegetative method of reproduction, wherein it undergoes fragmentation, fission and budding. So, fragmentation is nothing but the hyphae will break into smaller bits of fragments, and each fragment will develop into a new organism or a new fungi. That is nothing but fragmentation. And next, fission is again here they break into two parts, and each part will develop into a new organism. So, that is fission. Budding is, best example is yeast. Yeast, what they do is they produce buds. So, if this is the yeast, they produce small buds. These are the buds. So, these buds, they just separate and grow into a new organism. So, that is nothing but budding. Next, asexual method of reproduction is by producing spores. So, spores, they are produced in fruiting bodies. So, if they are produced in fruiting bodies called as ascocarps, then those fungi belong to ascomyositis. If they are produced in fruiting bodies called basidiocarps, then they belong to a class of fungi called basidiomyositis. So, always remember carp means fruit here. So, the fruiting bodies, in the fruiting bodies, the spores are produced. So, ascocarps produce ascospores, basidiocarps produce basidiospores. It is like that. And they can also reproduce asexually by conidia, wherein the conidia, that is there. Say for example, here I have given a conidia of alternaria, if you can see. which is a deuteromyositis. Alternaria conidia, they germinate, like how seeds germinate, no, they germinate, and wherever they germinate, a new hyphae or mycelium will be formed, or conidiophore will be formed, and there new conidia will start to develop. So that is how they reproduce asexually, by conidia formation and also by producing sporangiospores or zoospores. So zoospores are nothing but they are all motile spores which can germinate and they can develop into new organism, like how a seed and germinates and develop into a plant, right? Same way these asexual method of reproduction in fungi is also almost similar. Next sexual method of reproduction is by the production of oospores, ascospores and basidiospores. So ascospores are produced in fruiting bodies called as ascocarps. Basidiospores are produced in basidiocarps. So this is how sexual reproduction occurs. So the three methods of reproduction in fungi is vegetative, asexual and sexual. So next, moving on to the sexual reproduction. So in sexual reproduction, actually 3 steps are involved. So this is very, very important, which usually comes in the exam. In sexual reproduction of fungi, the cycle of sexual reproduction in fungi involves 3 main steps. The first one is plasmogamy, second being karyogamy, and the third being meiosis. So first we'll talk about plasmogamy. So the name itself suggests plasmo means it is protoplasm. Plasm. So I'll just write it here again. So plasmo is nothing but protoplasm. And gamy means the meaning of plasmo. So gamy means it is fusion. So what happens in plasmogamy? The fusion of protoplasm occurs in plasmogamy. So here I can write it here, like we have 2 gametes or spores here. So inside the spores, what are there? Protoplasm is there. Protoplasm inside the spores. So first, the fusion between the protoplasm will occur. That is nothing but plasmogamy. Next comes karyogamy. So these spores or gametes which you call, so this can be one gamete, this is another gamete. So the protoplasms of these 2 gametes will first fuse. Okay, that particular step is called as plasmogamy. The second one is karyogamy. So karyo means nucleus. Karyo means nucleus. Gamy means, I have already written, it is fusion. Next, what happens inside? Therefore, gamete is a cell, right? So every cell will have its nucleus. So here there is nucleus present. So this is the nucleus. These 2 are the nucleus. And this nucleus are haploid, meaning they have half a set of chromosome. So the fusion between the 2 nucleus or 2 gametes, so the 2 gametes will fuse, wherein the nucleus that is there will fuse, that is called as karyogamy. It is fusion of 2 nuclei. Next is meiosis. So after this fusion, what happens? The zygote will develop. Now this will be 2n. It is diploid, right? Why? Because nucleus which was haploid and haploid fused to produce a diploid nucleus. Now this is a zygote which is diploid. So this zygote will undergo meiosis, that is reduction division. So because it is reduction division, again the chromosomes will become half, right? So it will produce haploid spores. So all these are spores. So they will start to produce haploid spores. So this is nothing but the steps involved in the sexual reproduction cycle of fungi. So next, moving on to a particular topic, Dicario Phase. This is also very, very important because it usually appears in the exam. What is Dicario Phase? So you now know about plasmogamy, karyogamy and meiosis, right? So in between plasmogamy and karyogamy, in some fungi, one intermediate stage will occur, that is called as Dicario Phase. Say for example, I'll draw 2 gametes now, right? So this is a gamete and this is also a gamete. Because fusion always in sexual reproduction, fusion always occurs between two gametes, right? So these gametes will have a nucleus which is haploid, that is half a set of chromosome. Now these gametes, first what happens? The protoplasm will fuse, right? So here protoplasm fusion will occur. Protoplasm fusion. After the protoplasm fusion, what it was supposed to enter into which step? Karyogamy, right? But in some fungi, what happens? Karyogamy will not occur. What happens here is the two cells will fuse to become a larger cell, and here the nucleus will not fuse. Instead, the nucleus will remain inside the cell as such. Now, this is a dikaryotic phase. Dikaryotic phase. Why it is called dikaryotic phase? I told you karyo means nucleus. Di means two here, right? So inside the cell, how many nucleus are there? Two nucleus. So no fusion has occurred, and this particular step is called dikaryo phase. Dikaryo phase, and the cell is called as dikaryon. Dikaryon meaning a cell having two nucleus. Now, after this particular phase, then it will enter into karyogamy, wherein this nucleus will fuse and it will become diploid, right? Forming a zygote. Next, this zygote will undergo meiosis, forming haploid spores. So, I hope you understood. Earlier, we saw just protoplasm fusion, that is plasmogamy, then nucleus fusion, that is karyogamy, and then meiosis. But in some fungi, in between there is a stage that occurs wherein the protoplasm will fuse. After that, the nucleus will not fuse. The nucleus will remain as such, separate inside one single cell. Therefore, the cell will be called as a dikaryon, and the stage is called as dikaryo phase. Later on, this dikaryon, the nucleus will fuse. It will become a diploid zygote, which is nothing but karyogamy will occur. Then meiosis will occur, wherein they'll start to produce haploid spores. So this is about dikaryo phase. It is very, very important. So these were the general characteristics of fungi in general. Now we'll study about the classes of fungi. So fungi are divided into 4 classes: phyco-mycitors, ascomyositis, basidiomyositis, and deuteronomous. So the classification is usually done based on how the mycelium of fungi looks, whether it is branched, whether it is septate, whether it is aseptate, meaning it doesn't have septa, or what type of spore is produced and what type of fruiting body it produces. So we'll move on to studying about these. Talking about phyco-mycitors. So phyco means plants, mycitors is fungi. So those fungi which majorly grow on plants are called as phyco-mycitors. So here their habitat is, they are aquatic, they can live in both fresh and marine waters. They are found in decaying woods, in moist and damp places, and also majority of them can live on plants as obligate parasites. So obligate parasites means they can only live on a living host. If the plant dies, the fungi will also die. So for their survival, they always need a live host. So such parasites are called as obligate parasite. Next is them talking about the mycelium. It is aseptate and cenocytic. So those fungi whose mycelium is cenocytic. So what is cenocytic? Previously itself I have told you about it. Just have a look. So and they can be aseptate, wherein they may not have or they don't have a cross wall or septa. Next, reproduction. Here reproduction. Vegetative reproduction is not there in phyco-mycitors. Instead, they have asexual method of reproduction and sexual method of reproduction. So, asexual method of reproduction, spores are produced in structures called as sporangia, and they can produce different types of spores such as zoospores, which are motile, capable of moving, or they can produce aplanospores, which are not capable of moving because they don't have a flagella. Next, reproduction can be sexual, wherein 2 gametes are involved. The 2 gametes will fuse to form zygospore, And these two gametes can be of three types. They can be isogamous, they can be anisogamous, or they can be oogamous. So isogamous gametes means the gametes will be similar in size, same size. These are gametes which are similar in size. So if the gametes in sexual reproduction, if the gametes which are similar in size fuse, then they are called as isogamous. And they can have a flagella, or they don't have a flagella. Anything will do. And anisogamous means here gametes which are dissimilar in size. So one is larger and one is smaller, dissimilar in size. If the gametes which are not of same size, wherein one is large and one is small, fuse, then such type of fusion is called as anisogamous sexual reproduction. And oogamous is wherein the female gamete, so this is the female gamete and this is the male gamete, So female and male, you know, right? Symbol, female, we write it like this in science, biology, and male, this is how the symbol is written. So female gamete will be larger in size and it will be non-motile, and male gamete will be smaller in size and it will be motile because it will have flagella. So a smaller size non-motile male gamete fuses with the smaller size motile male gamete, fuses with the larger size non-motile female gamete. Such type of fusion is called as oogamous, and it is oogamy sexual fertilization. So this is about the reproduction in phyco-mycitors. Next, talking about ascomyositis. So, because you know now what is isogamous, oogamous and anisogamous, I'll not keep repeating that. We'll just go on studying about the other things. So, ascomyositis, it is also called as sac fungi. Why? Because they produce ascocarps, which are the fruiting body. So, this is the fruiting body which is ascocarp. In this ascocarp, they produce asci, sac-like structures which is called as asci, and in the asci actually spores are produced. So these are the spores which are nothing but ascospores. So those fungi which produce ascocarps are called and come under ascomyositis. They are called sac fungi because in the ascocarp sac-like or gunny bag-like structures are there which are called as asci. So that is why they are also called as sac fungi. So they are multicellular. For example, penicillium, so made up of many number of cells, and rarely they are unicellular. If they are unicellular, only one fungi is unicellular. It is Saccharomyces, which is nothing but yeast. This is very, very important. Next, their mycelium, it is branched and it is septate. I told you, right, in phycomyositis, it was aseptate, right? Here it is septate. And their mode of nutrition is they are saprophytes, they are decomposers, they are parasitic, and they are coprophilous. So, coprophilous means those fungi which grow on the animal dung, you call it as coprophilous. And next, talking about the reproduction, it is asexual by the production of conidia which are produced on structures called as conidiophores. Say for example here, it has conidia which is produced on conidiophore. So the hyphae of conidia is called as conidiophore here, conidiophore. And can be sexual, wherein they'll produce spores which are called as ascospores. So where are ascospore produced? In sac-like structures called as asci. And where is the asci produced? In fruiting body which is nothing but called as ascocarp. So here understand, carp means fruiting body. Fruiting body. So the carp or the fruiting body produced by ascomyositis are called as ascocarps, and the spores produced in the asci or sac-like structures in ascocarps are called as ascospores. Okay. So example, we have aspergillus, claviceps and neurospora. So neurospora, they are used in biochemical and genetic work, wherein they are used as genetic tools to study the organisms, and there are some edible ascomyositis, that is morels and truffles, which are used in preparing delicacies as they can be eaten. So this is about ascomyositis. So next, talking about basidiomyositis. So basidiomyositis, they are found on soil, logs, tree stumps, and they are also parasitic to some plants. Their mycelium, it is again branched and septate. Reproduction is of 3 types here. It is vegetative, sexual, and it is of 2 types, vegetative and sexual reproduction. So vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation, wherein the mycelium breaks into bit and each bit will develop into a new fungi. Next, sexual reproduction is by plasmogamy, wherein the gametes, the protoplasm of the gametes will fuse, then a karyogamy will occur. Before that, Dicario phase. So basidiomyositis have an intermediate stage called as Dicario phase. So what is Dicario phase? Already explained. So it forms a dikaryotic structure which is called as basidium, and this basidium undergoes karyogamy, wherein the fusion of the nucleus will occur, forming a diploid zygote. That zygote will undergo meiosis division or reduction division to produce basidiospores. Okay, so this is it. And where are these basidiospores produced? In basidium. Where is this basidium present? In basidiocarp. So this is about the basidiomyositis. Example, agaricus, ustilago and puccinia are the examples for basidiomyositis. Next, moving on to deuteromyositis. So deuteromyositis are commonly called as the imperfect fungi. This is very important. Which is the imperfect fungi? Is it ascomyositis, basidiomyositis, deuteromyositis or phycomyositis? So question usually appears. So here, why they are called imperfect fungi means till now the sexual reproduction stage of this particular fungi has not been found out by scientists. Some of the scientists say that they have a sexual reproduction stage. That is when they add this fungi to either ascomyositis or basidiomyositis. Some say that they don't have a sexual reproduction stage in them. So therefore, let us keep it separately as deuteromyositis. So that is why it is commonly called as imperfect fungi. It neither belongs to any of the group nor sometimes it is kept separately. So that is why. So talking about the mycelium, it is septate, having septa or cross walls, and it is branched. And the mode of nutrition, they are saprophytic, growing on dead and decaying organic matter. They are parasites growing on other live host, and they can be decomposers, wherein the fallen leaves, twigs and all that, they decompose that and add on to the nutrition of the soil. Next, the reproduction is asexual by the formation of conidia. So here you can see conidia of alternaria. So conidia which are produced on conidiophores. Example, alternaria, coletotrichum and trichoderma. So this is about deuteromyositis. So they have only asexual method of reproduction where the conidia directly germinates to produce new organism or new deuteromyositis again. So this was about this particular topic. So now we will move on to what are the important MCQs under this. So dash is an unicellular fungi. So you know the answer now. It is yeast, because yeast is the only fungi that is unicellular. So yeast is also called as Saccharomyces. So instead of yeast, they can give the answer as Saccharomyces also. Both are one and the same. Next, the fungi that absorb soluble organic matter from dead substrates are called. Is it symbionts? No. Symbionts are the ones that live with mutual understanding with other organisms. So not the answer. Is it saprophytes? Yes, because saprophytes are the ones that grow on dead and decaying organic matter. So this is the right answer. Parasites, no, because parasites are the ones which grow on live hosts. So that is why it's not true. Autotrophs are the ones which are capable of synthesizing their own food. So the right answer here is saprophytes. Next, the fungi that depends on living plants and animals are called the plants and animals that are live. Are they called saprophytes? No. Because saprophytes grow on dead and decaying organic matter. They are parasites because parasites are the ones which need a live organism for their survival. So the answer is B, parasites. The fungi which live in association with other organisms are called. I told you the meanings earlier itself. So therefore it is symbionts. Why? Symbionts are the ones which have a mutual understanding with other organisms and they grow well. Heterotrophs depend on other organisms. Saprophytes depend on dead organisms. Parasites depends on live host or organism. So the answer is C, symbionts. Next, fusion of protoplasm between two motile or non-motile gametes, wherein fusion of protoplasm. So protoplasm, I told you we have two gametes. So these are the gametes, two gametes. So they tend to fuse. So when they fuse, first what happens? The protoplasm inside them fuses, right? So fusion means gamete, plasmo means protoplasm. So therefore the answer here is plasmogamy. It is C, plasmogamy. Fusion of two nuclei in fungi is called karyogamy, because karyo means nucleus, gamy means fusion. So here what happens? After the fusion of protoplasm, the two nuclei will fuse to form a diploid zygote, right? So it is karyogamy. Next, dash is an example for phycomycitors. So phycomycitors are those fungi which usually grow on plants. Is it mucor, rhizopus, albugo, all of the above? So is it mucor, rhizopus, albugo, all of the above? So the answer here is all of the above, because albugo, mucor and rhizopus all come under phycomycetous itself. Mucor is also found on plants. Rhizopus also found in the soil and on the plants, and albugo also. So agaricus, ustilago and puccinia are grouped under basidiomysitis. So they produce basidiocarps. So therefore they are grouped under basidiomysitis. Next, dash are also known as sac fungi. So sac fungi, those which produce acai, right? They are ascomysitis. So ascomysitis is the right answer. So dash are imperfect fungi. Is it phycomycetes, ascomycetes, basidiomycetes or deuteromycetes? So the answer here is deuteromycetes. It's because they are the ones which are called as the imperfect fungi. So it is deuteromycetes. So this was about the session wherein you learnt about the topic. You learnt kingdom fungi. Under that we learnt 4 classes, that is phycomycetes, ascomycetes, basidiomycetes and deuteromycetes, and we also learned some of the MCQs that can be framed under this particular topic. So I hope you understood this session well. So we shall meet again in the coming session with a new topic, so wherein we'll study the other kingdoms and some of the MCQs under it. So see you again in the next session. Thank you.